Welcome to the channel. I know many of you listen to these videos to relax or fall asleep, and I'm really glad you're here. Before we start today's crime stories, please take a moment to subscribe if you haven't already. And if there's any crime story you'd like me to narrate for you, feel free to request it in the comments section. Now let's begin. Story 1. Hiroshi Mew was born on August 8, 1968, in Japan. His childhood was not marked by any notable public trauma or extreme poverty. He lived with his family in a typical Japanese home. He attended local schools as a boy. During his school years, he was not a standout student, but he also did not cause major trouble that was recorded. He progressed through the education system in an ordinary way. After finishing high school, Mew entered the Kanazawa Institute of Technology. This was a point of achievement for him and his family. He moved to attend this university. While at university in 1988, he lived a life like many other students. He made friends and attended classes. However, during this time, a specific incident occurred. He was with a male friend. During their interaction, Mew attempted to strangle this friend. The friend survived, but the event was serious. Because of this incident, Hiroshi Mew dropped out of the university. He did not complete his degree. After leaving university, Mew needed to find work. He eventually found a job in a company. He worked there for several years, from the late 1980s into the 1990s. He performed his duties and maintained the appearance of a normal employee. In 1995, another incident happened at his workplace. He was with a male work associate. During a disagreement or interaction, Mew beat this man and attempted to asphyxiate him, which means he tried to cut off his air supply. The man survived. The police were called. Mew was arrested and charged with assault. This arrest led to a legal process. Instead of going through a full trial, the case was settled out of court. This means Mew or his family likely paid money to the victim, and the victim agreed not to pursue further legal action. As a result, Hiroshi Mew was released from custody. However, his company fired him from his job because of the violent incident. He was now unemployed and had a criminal record for assault. For the next few years, Mew lived without stable employment. His social life was limited. He spent a lot of time alone. He developed a habit of using the internet, which was becoming more common in Japan during the late 1990s and early 2000s. He visited various websites and chat rooms. In 2001, his behavior led to another crime. He attempted to strangle 2 women. The police arrested him again. This time, he went to court. The judge sentenced him to 1 year in prison. He also received a 3-year suspended sentence, which meant if he committed another crime within 3 years of release, he would go back to prison immediately. Mew served his 1-year prison sentence. He was released early for good behavior. This meant he followed prison rules and was let out before his full sentence ended. But the suspended sentence was still active. He returned to life outside prison. He still struggled to find a good job. He continued to spend time online. Less than a year later, in 2002, he committed another crime. He attempted to strangle a junior high school boy. The police arrested him once more. Because he committed this crime during his suspended sentence, the penalty was more severe. The court sentenced him to 22 months in prison. He served this prison sentence in full. He was released from prison in 2004. He was now in his mid-30s. He had no university degree, no job, and a history of violence involving strangulation. He had spent a significant portion of his adult life in prison. He returned to his parents' home, or found a small place to live. His main connection to the outside world was his computer. He began to visit internet forums and websites more frequently, including sites where people talked about dark subjects. After his release from prison in 2004, Hiroshi Mew spent most of his time online. He used his computer to visit websites and chat rooms where people discussed depression and suicide. He was particularly interested in a certain type of website known as suicide clubs or suicide websites. On these sites, lonely and depressed people talked about wanting to die. Mew did not post about wanting to die himself. Instead, he read the posts of others. He decided to use these websites to find people. He created a plan. His plan was to contact people who wanted to commit suicide. He would pretend that he also wanted to die. He would suggest that they meet in person and die together. He promised them a specific method. He told them they would use a charcoal burner inside a sealed car. This method produces carbon monoxide gas, which is painless and causes death in sleep. This idea appealed to some people who were scared to die alone or who failed to kill themselves before. Mew chose his first target in early 2005. He contacted a 14-year-old boy who had posted on a suicide website. The boy was very unhappy and felt isolated. Through online messages, Mew gained the boy's trust. He arranged to meet the boy in a remote area. He picked the boy up in his car. He had a charcoal burner and other supplies in the car to make his story seem real. They drove to a quiet location. Mew talked to the boy for a short time, continuing to pretend they were both going to die. Then, instead of lighting the charcoal burner, Mew moved quickly. He attacked the boy. He used his hands to strangle the boy. The boy struggled but could not get free. Mew strangled the boy until he died. After the boy was dead, Mew placed the body in the trunk of his car. He later drove to a forest far from the city. He removed the body from the trunk and left it in the woods. He then drove home. Weeks later, Mew looked for another person on a different suicide website. He found a 25-year-old woman. She was also deeply depressed and had written about her wish to end her life. Mew contacted her using the same lies. He said he was a kind man who also wanted a painless death, and he suggested they could be partners so they would not be lonely. The woman agreed to meet him. They met in a parking lot. The woman got into Mew's car. Again, he had the charcoal burner visible. He drove to a secluded place. He again talked gently for a few minutes. Then, without warning, he attacked her. He strangled her with his hands. After she died, he put her body in the trunk. He disposed of her body in a different remote forest area. In the summer of 2005, Mew chose his third target. He contacted a 21-year-old man from a suicide website. The man had personal problems and saw no future for himself. Mew used the exact same story. The young man agreed to meet. The pattern repeated. Mew picked him up, drove to a quiet place, talked briefly, and then strangled him. He put the third body in his trunk and later left it in a hidden place in the countryside. During this time, the families of the victims reported them missing to the police. The police in different areas opened missing person cases. They did not connect the cases at first because the victims lived in different cities and were different ages and genders. The police did not know about the suicide website links. They conducted standard missing person searches, but found no leads. Mew felt confident after the third killing. He continued to visit the suicide websites daily. He looked for more potential victims. He believed his method was foolproof because he targeted people who would not be missed quickly and who had chosen to meet a stranger to die. He thought no one would look for a murderer if the person wanted to die. However, after the third victim was reported missing, a family member gave the police an important piece of information. The family member knew the young man had been talking to someone online about suicide. The police started to look at the victim's computer history. They found traces of his visits to the suicide websites. This was the first clue that connected the disappearance to online activity. The police did not yet know about Mew or the other victims, but they began to monitor the websites closely. The police, now aware that the missing 21-year-old man had used suicide websites, began to monitor these sites closely. Officers created fake profiles and entered the chat rooms, watching for anyone who might be contacting vulnerable people. At the same time, they reviewed the computer records of the other missing persons, the 14-year-old boy and the 25-year-old woman. They discovered that these two victims had also visited the same types of websites before disappearing. This was the link that connected the three cases. The police now believed a single person might be targeting people from these forums. Investigators obtained records from the website companies. They looked at the login times and message histories of the victims. They found that each victim had been in private contact with the same online username. The police traced the Internet Protocol, IP, address used by that username. An IP address is a unique number linked to an Internet connection. The records showed the IP address was located in Osaka and was registered to a specific apartment. The police set up surveillance on that apartment. They saw a man living there alone. They identified him as Hiroshi Miu, a man with a known history of arrests for strangulation assaults. This made him a very strong suspect. To gather more evidence, the police obtained a warrant to search his apartment. During the search in late 2005, they found his computer. On the computer, they found the browser history showing visits to the suicide websites. They also found saved conversations between his username and the three victims. In these conversations, he detailed plans to meet and use the charcoal burner method. The police arrested Hiroshi Miu at his apartment. He did not fight the arrest. After being taken to the police station, he was questioned for many hours. At first, he denied involvement. However, when the police showed him the printed conversations from his computer and evidence placing his car in areas where the victims were last seen, he confessed. He told the police he had killed all three people. He explained that he lured them with the promise of a group suicide, but his real plan was always to strangle them. He also told the police where he had left the bodies. Guided by his confession, the police went to the remote forest areas he described. They found the remains of the three victims. This physical evidence confirmed his confession. The families of the victims were informed, which ended their uncertainty but caused them great pain. Miu was charged with multiple counts of murder. While in jail waiting for his trial, he spoke with court-appointed doctors. He told them that he had a specific sexual disorder. He said he could only achieve sexual pleasure by strangling someone. He also said he had first had thoughts about this after reading a mystery novel about murder as a child. The doctors examined him and agreed with this diagnosis. His trial began at the Osaka District Court. Prosecutors called him a lust murderer, meaning he killed for sexual satisfaction. They used the evidence from his computer, his car records, his confession, and the location of the bodies to prove his guilt. The defense lawyers did not deny he committed the murders. They argued that his mental disorder should mean a lesser sentence than death. The judges listened to all the evidence. On March 28, 2007, the court gave its verdict. The judges found Hiroshi Miu guilty of all murders. They sentenced him to death by hanging. They stated that his crimes were carefully planned, he targeted vulnerable victims, and he showed no possibility of reform. After the sentence, his defense team launched an appeal, as is normal in death penalty cases. However, a few months later, on July 5, 2007, Miu told his lawyers to stop. He withdrew his appeal. He said he accepted the death sentence and was willing to die to pay for his crimes. For the next 2 years, he remained on death row in a prison in Osaka. The sentence was reviewed by higher officials, as required by law. No reasons were found to change the sentence. On July 28, 2009, the sentence was carried out. Hiroshi Miu was executed by hanging at the Osaka Detention Center. Another convicted criminal was executed on the same day. The families of the victims were notified by authorities that the execution had taken place. For the families, this brought a sense of legal closure, though it did not end their grief for their lost children, sibling, and friend. The case led to increased police monitoring of suicide websites in Japan and greater public awareness of the dangers of meeting strangers from such forums. Hiroshi Miya's crimes ended with his execution on that day in July 2009. Story 2. Surinder Kohli was born in the year 1969. His birth took place in a small, remote village within the Almora district of Uttarakhand, India. This was a hilly region where many families lived a simple life with limited income. His family was very poor. They did not own much land for farming. The financial situation of the household was a constant difficulty. From a young age, Surinder Kohli helped with household chores. His formal education did not last for many years. He left school after only a few grades. This was common for children in his situation, as families often needed help at home or for earning money. As a boy and a young man, he did not stand out in his community. He was described as quiet and kept to himself mostly. When he became an adult, Surinder Kohli, like many young men from his village, needed to find work to support himself and his family. The opportunities in his home village were very few. There were no factories or companies there. The only way to earn a proper income was to leave and go to the bigger cities where more jobs were available. He first moved to Delhi, the capital city. In a big city, without advanced education or special skills, the types of jobs available to him were limited. He found work as a laborer. This work was physically hard. The pay was low. He moved from one temporary job to another, never finding stable or secure employment. Life in the city was challenging for him. After some years in Delhi, Surinder Kohli heard about work opportunities in a newer city called Noida, which was close to Delhi. He decided to move there. In Noida, he again searched for any job he could get. Eventually, he was hired as a domestic servant. His job was to work in people's homes, doing cleaning, washing, and other household tasks. Through this work, he learned basic duties like cooking and maintenance. He changed employers a few times. His life was one of routine and obedience, following the instructions of the families who hired him. He lived in small quarters meant for servants, often on the property of his employers. He had very little social life outside of his work. He did not marry or have a family of his own. He sent money back to his family in the village when he could. In 2005, Surinder Kohli took a new job. He was hired to work at a house in Sector 31 of Noida. The house was numbered D5. The owner of the house was a businessman named Maninder Singh Pander. Kohli's duties here were comprehensive. He was to manage all the household work, including cleaning, laundry, and cooking. He was given a place to live on the property. This job was perhaps the most stable and long-term position he had ever held. The house D5 was located at the edge of Sector 31, right next to a village called Nithari. The back of the house faced the village. There was a boundary wall. The area around the house had open drains and unused land. For Surinder Kohli, this job meant a regular routine. He would wake up, complete his chores, and follow the patterns set by his employer, Mr. Pander, who traveled often for his business. Kohli was responsible for maintaining the house during his employer's absences. Surinder Kohli's life at House D5 in Noida settled into a routine. His employer, Maninder Singh Pander, was often away on business trips or was occupied with his own social life. For long periods, Kohli was the only person living in the large house. The back of the property, which faced the Nithari village settlement, was not well maintained. There was a municipal drain behind the boundary wall and some overgrown land. The first incident happened in 2005. A young girl from Nithari village went missing. Her family was poor. She was known to play near the cluster of houses. On the day she disappeared, she was in the lane near the D5 house. Surinder Kohli, who was in the backyard or near the gate, called out to her. He offered her some food or a small treat. He was a familiar face in the area as a servant, so the child did not sense immediate danger. He persuaded her to come inside the property. Once the girl was inside, Coley took her to the ground floor bathroom or a secluded room. He then assaulted her. After the assault, he strangled her. The method was consistent. He used his hands or a piece of cloth to choke her until she died. He then carried the body to the bathroom. Using a sharp knife, he cut the body into pieces. This was done to make disposal easier. He placed the body parts into plastic bags. When it was dark, he would open the back door or a rear window. He would throw the plastic bags into the open drain behind the house. Sometimes, he would also bury some parts in the shallow ground near the drain. He would then clean the bathroom thoroughly. The entire process, from luring to disposal, was completed within a few hours. The missing child's family in Nithari searched for her. They went to the local police station to report her disappearance. The police registered a report, but did not conduct a serious investigation. They suggested the child may have run away or gotten lost. This method became a pattern. Over the following months, and into 2006, more children from Nithari went missing. They were mostly young girls, but sometimes young boys from poor families. The families were migrant workers or lived in the informal settlements of Nithari. The children would play in the lanes near the D5 house. Surinder Kohli would watch them from the property. When he saw an opportunity, he would repeat his process. He would call a child over, offer them something, and take them inside. The assault, murder, and dismemberment would happen in the same way. The body parts were disposed of in the same drain or buried nearby. In October 2006, a young woman named Pyle, who was about 20 years old and worked as a domestic helper in the neighborhood, also disappeared. She had last been seen in the vicinity of the D5 house. Surinder Kohli used a similar tactic to lure her inside. Her case was slightly different because she was an adult. After her death, Kohli kept some of her personal belongings, like her mobile phone. During this time, Maninder Singh Pandar was sometimes present in the house. He lived on the upper floors. The crimes were committed by Kohli on the ground floor or in the servants' quarters when Pandar was away or upstairs. There was no evidence that Pandar participated in these acts. Kohli acted alone in carrying out the killings. In Nithari village, a growing sense of panic spread among parents. Many children had vanished in a small area over 2 years. The families repeatedly went to the Noida police. They pleaded for a proper investigation. They pointed out that all the children had gone missing near the same sector. The police mostly ignored them. The officers did not connect the cases. They treated each missing person report as an isolated incident. They told parents the children were probably lost or had left home willingly. No major search operation was launched around the D5 house or the drain. By December 2006, the number of missing children and young women from the area had reached a very high number. The parents of the missing felt helpless and angry. They knew the police were not helping them. They began to talk among themselves and identified a common location. All their children had last been seen near the large house at the end of the lane, House D5. In late December 2006, 2 fathers from Nithari village, whose daughters had been missing for months, decided to act on their own. They had spoken to many other parents and were convinced the key was behind House D5. They sought help from a former president of the local residents association. On the morning of December 29th, the 2 men and the association president went to the drain behind the D5 house. They began to search and remove debris from the open drain. Very quickly, they found a decomposed human hand. They immediately contacted the police. This discovery forced the Noida police to come to the scene. Officers arrived and began a more thorough search of the drain and the land around House D5. They found more human remains. These were not complete bodies, but bones, skulls, and decomposed body parts. The news spread instantly through Nithari. Anxious parents of all missing children rushed to the site with photographs, hoping for answers. The police sealed the house and started an official investigation. The first person the police questioned was the servant of the house, Surinder Kohli. He was taken into custody. During questioning, Kohli confessed. He told the police he had killed several children and the woman named Pyle. He described luring them, the assaults, and the murders. He said he strangled them, cut up their bodies, and threw the parts in the drain. Based on his confession, the police also detained the homeowner, Maninder Singh Pander, for questioning. The police then began large-scale digging operations around the property, uncovering more skeletal remains. The case was so large and the public outrage so severe that the state government handed the investigation over to the Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI, in January 2007. The CBI took charge of all evidence and the two accused men. Their first task was to establish the facts independently of the local police. The CBI teams conducted new meticulous searches. They found more human bones and skulls in the drains. They collected all remains and sent them to forensic laboratories. Forensic scientists worked to identify the victims. They used DNA testing to match the bones with the families who had missing children. They also conducted medical examinations on the remains. The scientists confirmed the victims had been cut with a sharp tool. They established that most of the victims were young children. The CBI also collected physical evidence from House D5, including clothing and a blood-stained grill from a bathroom. The CBI interrogated both Kohli and Pander extensively. Surinder Kohli repeated his confession to the CBI, detailing each crime. Maninder Singh Pander denied any involvement in the murders. The CBI's investigation concluded that Kohli had acted alone in the killings. Their official report stated that Pander may not have known about the crimes, though he was charged for aspects related to the death of one woman, Pyle, as she was found to have been in his company earlier. The legal process moved to the courts. Separate trials were held for different murder cases because each victim represented a separate charge. The prosecution presented evidence including Kohli's confessions, forensic reports matching remains to missing children, and witness accounts placing missing children near the house. The defense lawyers argued the confessions were forced and that the evidence was circumstantial. In February 2009, a special court found both Surinder Kohli and Maninder Singh Pander guilty of the murder of one young girl, Rimpa Huldar. The judge sentenced both men to death. This was the first conviction. Over the next few years, in separate trials for other victims, Surinder Kohli was found guilty and given the death sentence multiple times. Maninder Singh Pander was only convicted in one other case. He was acquitted in the others by higher courts. The convicted men appealed all the way to the Supreme Court of India. The legal appeals focused on the validity of the confessions and the quality of the police investigation. The process took many years. In 2014, Surinder Kohli's death warrant was signed, but his lawyers filed a last-minute petition. The Supreme Court halted the execution to review the appeal. In 2015, the Allahabad High Court commuted Kohli's death sentence to life imprisonment, citing an unacceptable delay in processing his mercy petition. However, the final turn in the case came many years later. In October 2023, the Allahabad High Court heard the final appeals from both Kohli and Pander. The court examined the entire investigation record. The judges ruled that the police investigation was badly conducted and unreliable. They stated that the only major evidence against the men were their own confessions, which could not be fully trusted given the flawed probe. The court declared that the prosecution had failed to prove their guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. They acquitted both Surinder Kohli and Maninder Singh Pander of all charges, and both men were ordered to be released from jail. The Supreme Court of India upheld this acquittal in November 2025, and Surinder Kohli was released. For the families of the victims, this final outcome was a devastating blow, feeling that justice for their children was never truly achieved. The story of the Nithari crimes ended not with a punishment, but with a court declaring that the legal process had failed. Story 3. Mamoru Takuma was born on November 23, 1963, in the city of Atami, Japan. His mother discovered she was pregnant with him and told his father she wanted to have an abortion. She did not get one. From the moment he was born, his mother showed him no affection. She was reluctant to breastfeed him and did not hold him warmly. This lack of love continued as he grew. Both of his parents were abusive and neglectful. His father was particularly cruel. The abuse was both physical and emotional. As a young boy, Mamoru Takuma once thought about stabbing his father while he slept. He did not do it, but the thought was there because of the bad treatment. From a very early age, he displayed unusual and troubling behavior. When he was 3 years old, he rode his tricycle into the middle of a busy highway. This caused cars to stop and created traffic jams. People had to get him out of the road. He also had a habit of catching small animals. He would wrap them in newspaper, set the paper on fire, and kill them. When he attended elementary school and later junior high school, he was involved in bullying. He was both a victim who was bullied by others and a perpetrator who bullied other children. During this time, he began to feel strong envy. He felt jealous of children who came from families with more money or higher education. He disliked people he saw as elites. In February of 1979, he enrolled in a high school in Amagasaki. He did not finish his studies. He dropped out in March 1981. After leaving school, he got a part-time job working at a gas station. He worked there for a few months. At the end of 1981, when he was 18 years old, he decided to join the Japan Air Self-Defense Force. This is the military air force of Japan. He did not last long there. In January 1983, he was discharged. The reason for his discharge was that he had taken in a teenage runaway and let her stay with him. This was against the rules. After being forced out of the military, his relationship with his parents became even worse. His father beat him with stones during arguments. In response, Mamoru Takuma threatened to join the Yakuza, which is the Japanese criminal underworld. He said he would do this to ruin his parents' lives. In 1984, he and his mother left the family home. His father and his older brother stayed behind. He and his mother bought an apartment and lived together for about a year and a half. Then his father came and took his mother back. Mamoru Takuma was left on his own. In February 1999, his older brother killed himself. His brother was facing bankruptcy and died by cutting his own neck with a knife. After this event, his father was hospitalized due to heavy drinking. Mamoru Takuma later said that he wished his father would also commit suicide. His mother had a long history of mental illness. Mamoru Takuma's own mental state continued to be unstable as he moved into adulthood, living a lonely and troubled life. After his brother's death, Mamoru Takuma continued to live an unstable life. His mental health problems and anger towards society did not improve. His first major known crime happened on November 21, 1984. He was working for a condominium management company collecting rent. On that day, he raped a female tenant inside her own apartment. After the attack, he became paranoid that the woman had gone to the police. Because of this fear, he went to a psychiatrist with his mother on December 12, 1984. He told the doctor he was hearing voices and having hallucinations. He said he had a feeling of plunging into someone. The hospital first thought he had anxiety, but later told the police he was schizophrenic. He was admitted to a closed ward in the hospital. He was unhappy with being there. On January 4, 1985, he tried to kill himself by jumping from the roof of the hospital's 5th floor. He did not die, but he broke his jaw and other bones in his face. He later wrote a letter to his mother. In the letter, He said he had gone to the hospital to avoid the police investigation for the rape. He said he jumped from the roof to cause trouble for his parents. After he left the hospital, he decided he would commit more crimes. He wanted to get revenge on the world. For the 1984 rape, he was arrested and found guilty. In November 1986, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. While in prison, he jumped from a hospital ward there too. He wrote another letter to his mother. He said he did it because she would not help get him released. He demanded that his parents give him money for his living expenses after he got out of prison. His father refused. His father said Mamoru showed no remorse for his actions. His father said he would use the money from selling Mamoru's belongings to officially cut ties with him. He was released from prison in March 1989. He moved to the city of Ikeda. He found work as a driver for buses and trucks. People he worked with said he was quiet and kept to himself. He did not like jobs where he had to talk to customers. Later, during a psychological examination, he said he caused 2 deadly car accidents while driving for work. The first accident happened when he was driving a dump truck in the mountains. He was carrying industrial waste. He drove in front of another truck and then suddenly pressed the brake pedal on a downhill turn. This caused the other truck to crash into him. The people in the other truck all died the next day from their injuries. He lied about how the accident happened and was not charged with any crime. The second accident happened when he was driving a large semi-trailer truck near a city expressway. His actions caused another driver to crash into a wall and die. Mamoru Takuma did not stop after this crash. He immediately left the scene. In September 1993, he was arrested again for rape. In 1998, he was working as a bus driver. He got into an argument with a female passenger because he did not like the smell of her perfume. He assaulted her. He was fired from this job because of that attack. He then found a new job as a maintenance man at Itami Elementary School. This school was about 6 kilometers from Ikeda. Later in 1998, he was arrested for assaulting his ex-wife. On March 3, 1999, he committed a crime at the elementary school where he worked. He dissolved a powerful tranquilizer drug called temazepam into a pot of tea in the teacher's room. 4 teachers drank the tea and became very ill. They were taken to the hospital and stayed there for 3 days. When asked about this, he said he was angry because the teachers ignored him and he had family problems. He said he wanted to relieve his anger. He was arrested for this poisoning, but was not criminally punished. A court decided he was not responsible due to mental illness. In November 1999, he was arrested on suspicion of breaking into a building, but the charges were dropped. In September 2000, he got a job driving a taxi. He was fired the next month. The reason was that he assaulted a hotel bellhop in Osaka. He broke the bellhop's nose. In November 2000, he started a job as a truck driver for a construction company in Ikeda. He was fired a few months later because of several problems. One problem was a road rage incident where he got very angry at another driver. He also kept getting kicked out of the apartments he lived in. One reason was that he would throw his garbage directly off his balcony onto the ground. On May 23, 2001, he checked himself into a psychiatric hospital. He said he was depressed. He left the hospital the very next day without getting any treatment. Also around this time, he was arrested for driving his car in reverse on a major expressway. He was released after the police found him mentally unfit for charges. His court hearing for the assault on the hotel bellhop was scheduled for June 8, 2001. On the morning of that day, he did not go to court. Instead, he went to Ikeda Elementary School. He carried a kitchen knife with a blade about 15 centimeters long. He entered the school grounds just as classes were starting. He began attacking children and teachers on the playground and in the hallways. He stabbed people quickly and without warning. The attack lasted for several minutes. During this short time, he killed 8 children. 7 were 8-year-old girls. 1 was a 7-year-old boy. He also seriously wounded 13 other children and 2 teachers. School staff finally managed to wrestle him to the ground and hold him until the police arrived. When the police arrested him, he was confused. At first he said, "I went to the elementary school." Then he said, "I went to the train station and stabbed 100 people with my knife. I did not go to the elementary school." After his arrest, he said he had drank 10 times the medicine. Doctors did a medical examination. The medicine he took was a mix of antipsychotic and antidepressant drugs. Even in large amounts, these drugs are more likely to make a person extremely sleepy, not violent. He told the police, "I've become disgusted with everything. I've tried to kill myself several times, but couldn't. I wanted to be caught and be given a death sentence." He also said he hated the children at the school because he thought they came from rich, elite families. The crime was discovered immediately as it happened. Teachers and staff at Ikeda Elementary School saw the attack. They called the police and an ambulance while trying to stop Mamoru Takuma. The police arrived at the school within minutes of being called. They found a scene of chaos, with injured children and adults on the ground. The police officers arrested Takuma at the scene. They took the kitchen knife from him as evidence. The wounded were rushed to several different hospitals for emergency surgery and treatment. The police investigation began right away. They secured the entire school as a crime scene. Detectives collected physical evidence, including the knife and Takuma's clothing. They interviewed all the teachers and staff members who witnessed the attack. The police also talked to the children who were hurt but able to speak. All the witnesses said the same thing. A man they did not know had run into the school and started stabbing people without saying a word. The police identified the attacker as Mamoru Takuma through the identification cards he was carrying. They learned he lived alone in a small apartment in Ikeda. The police searched his apartment. They did not find any plans or notes about the school attack. They did find many bottles of prescription medicine for mental illness. They also found legal papers about his upcoming court hearing for the earlier assault case. Doctors examined Takuma after his arrest. They took blood samples to check for drugs. The blood tests showed the medicines he said he took, but not in extremely high amounts. The doctors concluded that the drugs in his system did not cause the violent behavior. They believed he was aware of his actions. The police charged him with multiple counts of murder and attempted murder. During questioning, Takuma did not deny the attacks. He explained his reasons. He said he wanted to be given the death penalty. He said he hated society and wanted revenge. He specifically mentioned hating elite, rich people, and said the children at that school came from such families. The police prepared a detailed report for the public prosecutor. The trial started in 2003. In court, Takuma's lawyers argued he was not mentally responsible for his actions. They said he had a long history of severe mental illness, including schizophrenia. They said he was in a state of temporary insanity during the school attack. To support this, the lawyers showed his old medical records from 1984. The prosecution argued against this. They brought in psychiatric experts. One key expert was the doctor who had diagnosed Takuma with schizophrenia in 1984. This doctor now told the court he had changed his diagnosis. He said after reviewing all of Takuma's history and behavior, he believed Takuma had a different condition called paranoid personality disorder. The doctor explained that people with this disorder are often angry, distrustful, and hold grudges, but they know the difference between right and wrong. The doctor stated that Takuma understood the reality and consequences of his actions on the day of the crime. During the trial, Takuma's behavior in the courtroom was very disruptive. He would yawn loudly, shake his body, and make faces. He stared in a threatening way at the families of the victims who were present. He never apologized. When given a chance to speak, he said, "I should have used gasoline, so I could have killed more than I did." On the final day of the trial, he shouted insults at the victims' families. The judge ordered him to be removed from the courtroom. The judges reached a verdict on August 28, 2003. They found Mamoru Takuma guilty of all charges, including the murder of 8 children. The judges agreed with the prosecution's experts. They ruled that he was fully aware of his crimes and was legally sane at the time he committed them. They sentenced him to death by hanging. After the sentence, Takuma was sent to the Osaka detention house to wait for execution. He did not appeal the sentence. He repeatedly said he wanted to be executed quickly. In Japan, prisoners on death row often wait for many years or even decades. But in Takuma's case, the process was very fast. 1 year after his sentence, on September 14, 2004, the authorities carried out the execution. He was hanged at the Osaka detention house. The families of the victims received some financial compensation from the government and from the Osaka school board. The school board was criticized for not having better security to stop an intruder. After the attack, many elementary schools in Japan installed new security fences, intercom systems for entry, and held more safety drills. The wounded children and teachers had to live with physical and emotional scars. Some were disabled from their injuries. Mamoru Takuma's desire for a fast execution and his shocking crime had an effect he did not intend. It influenced other criminals. In later years, some people who committed terrible crimes said they were inspired by him. They said they wanted to be executed quickly like Takuma, so they could become infamous. This created a painful link between his crime and future violence, causing ongoing sorrow for society. The legal case was fully closed with his execution. Story 4. Wu Bumkan was born on November 5, 1955, in Koryang, a part of Dong District in the city of Daegu, South Korea. His father worked as a police officer. Growing up, Wu saw his father's profession and decided he also wanted to become a policeman. This was a clear goal for him from a young age. After finishing his basic schooling, Wu entered mandatory military service. He joined the South Korean Marine Corps. During his time in the Marines, he learned to use firearms. He practiced often and became very skilled at shooting. He was recognized as an excellent marksman before he was discharged from the military in 1978. Following his military service, Wu pursued his goal of becoming a police officer. On April 11, 1981, he officially joined the police force. Because of his noted skill with guns, he was given a special and important job. He was assigned to work as a guard at the Blue House, which is the official residence and office of the South Korean president in Seoul. This job was considered a position of trust. However, Wu had a personal habit that caused problems. He drank alcohol heavily. His behavior when he was drunk was poor. This drinking habit and the actions he took while intoxicated were noticed by his superiors. Because of this, he was punished. He was removed from his prestigious post at the Blue House in Seoul. He was demoted and transferred to a small, rural village called Kungyu. This village was located in Uriang County, far from the city. This move felt like a big step down in his career. In this village, he lived with his girlfriend, a woman named Chun Malsoon. She later said that Wu often felt inferior to others. He was bothered by what people in the village said about him. The villagers talked about the fact that he and his girlfriend were living together without being married. Chun Malsoon also described Wu's personality as a little eccentric. His life in the rural village was very different from his earlier life in the city and his important job at the Blue House. He continued to work as a police officer in this small village station. Wu Bumkan's life in the rural village continued without major incident until the afternoon of April 26, 1982. On that day, he was sleeping at home. His girlfriend, Chun Malsoon, was nearby. She saw a fly land on his chest while he slept. She swatted the fly to kill it. The act of swatting him awake caused Wu to become very angry. He and Chun Mao soon began to argue. After the argument, Wu left the house. He went directly to the local police station where he worked. He reported for his duty shift at 4 p.m. Once at the station, he began to drink alcohol. He drank a large amount over several hours. Some people who saw him later said he did not appear drunk. However, he had been drinking. At around 7:30 in the evening, Wu left the police station and returned to his house. He was still very angry. He attacked Chun Mao soon, physically assaulting her. He then began to break the furniture inside their home, destroying things in a rage. He then left his house again and went to a nearby building called the Reservists' Armory. This was a storage place for weapons. Because he was a police officer, he had access. He went inside and took several weapons. He took 2 M2 carbines, which are a type of rifle. He also took 2 handguns. He gathered a lot of bullets, at least 180 rounds of ammunition. Finally, he took 7 hand grenades. Other officers were not present to stop him at that moment. At approximately 9:30 p.m., Wu started his attack. He shot and killed his first victim outside. He then entered the local village post office. Inside the post office, there were 3 telephone operators. Wu shot and killed all 3 of them. After killing them, he cut the main telephone lines. This meant people in the area could not call for help. Wu next walked to a place called Tarongni. This was a marketplace area where people passed by. He threw one of his hand grenades into the area. He also used his rifle to shoot at people who were walking nearby. He killed 6 people in this attack. During this shooting, his girlfriend, Chun Mao Soon, who had been injured earlier, came out to see what the noise was. Wu shot at her again, wounding her a second time. Wu then began to move from one small village to the next. He used his position as a police officer to make people trust him. He would approach houses and tell the people inside he was an officer. When they let him in, he would shoot them with his rifle. He did this in several homes. At 10:30 p.m., Wu found an 18-year-old student named Kim Ju-dong. Wu took Kim hostage. He forced Kim to walk with him to another village called Unjairi. Wu told Kim he wanted a soft drink. He ordered Kim to go into a grocery store owned by a 52-year-old man named Shin Wee-do and get the drink. Kim did as he was told. After Kim brought him the drink, Wu shot and killed the young man. Wu then attacked the grocery store owner, Shin Wee-do. He shot Shin in the leg, but Shin managed to escape and hide. Wu then killed Shin's wife, Sun Won-jiam, and their 2 daughters, Chong-sun and Su-jong. Wu continued shooting in this village's marketplace, killing a total of 18 people there. Wu then walked to another village called Pyeongkanenai. He entered one house and shot, and killed a family of 4 while they were sleeping in their beds. He went to another house where the family was awake. The owner of the house saw Wu was a policeman and asked him what was happening. Wu lied to the man. He told the man that North Korean spies had been seen in the area, and there was an alert. The man believed Wu and invited him inside for a meal. While eating dinner with the family and their guests, Wu began to complain about his life. He talked about how his police salary was too small. He talked about being sent away from the city of Pusan to the countryside. During the meal, one of the guests looked at Wu's ammunition and said it did not look real. After this comment, Wu started shooting everyone in the house. He killed 12 people inside that home. He then went back outside and shot 8 more people in the streets of the village. In total, he killed 24 people in Pyeongkanenai. While this was happening, some people in the first villages had managed to alert the police. The police were told about a shooter within minutes of the first shots. However, they were not prepared. It took the local officers an hour to form a team. They gathered 37 policemen to search for Wu. The National Police Headquarters in Seoul, the capital city, was not informed until much later, at 1:40 a.m. Shortly after 1:40 a.m., the the police teams that had been searching the villages received information about Wu's location. A farmer from a house about 4 kilometers from the Kungyu police station had managed to escape and alert them. The police surrounded a farmhouse belonging to a 68-year-old man named Su. Wu was inside this house. Earlier, Wu had come to the farmhouse and told Su a lie. He said he was a police officer chasing a communist infiltrator. He told the family to gather in the main room so he could protect them. Once the family was together, Wu took them hostage. The police closed in on the farmhouse. For 2 hours, the situation was a standoff with Wu holding the family inside. As the police forces prepared to enter the house, Wu made his final move. He took 2 of the hand grenades he was carrying. He strapped these grenades to his own chest. He then detonated them. The explosion killed Wu instantly. It also killed 3 of the hostages he was holding. The homeowner, Su, was seriously injured by the blast but survived. When the police entered the house after the explosion, they found 4 unused bullets and 1 unused hand grenade. The full scale of the crime was then discovered. Police and medical workers went to all the villages Wu had visited. They collected the bodies of the victims and helped the wounded. The final count showed that 56 people, besides Wu himself, were killed during the shooting. 35 people were wounded. Some of the wounded were in very serious condition. Over the next 2 weeks, 6 more people who were badly wounded died in hospitals. 1 child died on May 8th. This brought the total number of deaths to at least 62. Different hospitals in different cities treated the injured, which caused some initial confusion in counting the victims. The public and the government were shocked by the event. An investigation began immediately to find out how this could happen. The first part of the investigation looked at the police force itself. The chief of police for the province where the attack happened was suspended from his job. 4 other police officers from the local station were arrested. They were charged with negligence of duty. The investigation said they were responsible for not properly securing the weapons and for not stopping Wu sooner. The investigation then looked at higher levels of government. The Interior Minister of South Korea, a man named Su Chung-hwa, and the National Police Chief, a young MO, both offered to resign. They said they were doing this to take responsibility for the failure to prevent the massacre. President Chun Doo-hwan held Minister Su Chung-hwa personally responsible. On April 29, 1982, Su Chung-hwa's resignation was accepted. He was replaced by a new interior minister named Roh Tae-woo. The National Parliament also started an investigation. A special team was formed, made up of 19 lawmakers. The team was led by the chairman of the Home Affairs Committee, a man named Kim Chong-ho. This team's job was to find all the facts about the massacre. They also investigated why the police response was so slow and disorganized. Their findings confirmed the failures in weapon security and the slow emergency response. The government then addressed the needs of the victims and their families. The South Korean cabinet approved the use of government money to pay compensation. This money was given to the families of the people who were killed and to the people who were injured. This was done to help them with medical costs and other losses. For many years, the victims and their families did not have a public place to remember what happened. In 2018, the families requested a memorial. The governor of Urian County, Oh Tae-won, proposed building a memorial park. Planning and design for the park began in 2022. The design was finished in November 2023. The park was built and officially opened on April 26, 2024. This date was the 42nd anniversary of the attack. The park is called the Uriang 4.26 Memorial Park. It contains a memorial monument and a tower. The monument shows 2 golden hands releasing a dove into the sky. A wall behind it has the names of the 56 people who died at the scene and 34 who were injured carved into it. A public memorial service was held at the park on the day it opened. The memory of the victims is now preserved in a place of peace and remembrance. Story 5. Park Myung-sik was born in 1955 in Sinpo, a city in North Korea. He grew up in a small apartment with his parents and one older sister. His father worked at the same shipbuilding factory where Park would later work. His mother worked at a food distribution center. Park attended the local school. He was a quiet student who did not talk much. He did not have many friends. He preferred to be alone. After school, he would go straight home. His grades were average. He was not especially good or bad at any subject. He finished his required schooling at age 16. Following school, it was expected he would work. His father arranged a job for him at the Sinpo shipbuilding factory. This was a common job in the city. Park started as a low-level assistant. His job was to clean tools and bring materials to the skilled workers. He was happy to have this job. It was stable and expected. Park lived a very routine life. He lived with his parents until they passed away. First his father died, then his mother a few years later. His sister had married and moved to another town. After his parents died, Park lived alone in the same small apartment. He continued his job at the factory. He did the same tasks every day. His co-workers knew him, but did not know him well. They described him as very timid. He spoke only when spoken to. He never joined others for meals or drinks after work. He would simply finish his shift and go home. Outside of work, Park had no hobbies. He did not marry. He had no friends to visit. His life was between his apartment and the factory. He was a man who did not draw any attention. He followed all the rules. He was never in trouble. When Park was in his late 30s, he began to feel sick. He felt tired all the time. His stomach hurt. His skin and eyes turned a slight yellow color. He went to the local clinic. The doctors there could not help him. The pain got worse. After many months, he was given permission to see a special doctor in a bigger hospital in the city of Hamhung. This was difficult to arrange. After many tests, the doctor told Park he had a serious liver disease called cirrhosis. The doctor gave him medicine. Park took the medicine, but it did not stop the pain. He returned to his job at the factory. He worked slowly because he was weak and in pain. His co-workers noticed he looked very ill. One day, Park was in great pain at work. A co-worker saw him struggling. This co-worker felt sorry for him. The co-worker spoke to Park quietly. He said that maybe a fortune teller could help him where doctors could not. Fortune telling is not allowed in North Korea. It is seen as superstition. But some people still do it in secret. Park was desperate. He had tried the official doctors. He was still sick. He asked the co-worker to introduce him to the fortune teller. The co-worker agreed because he felt pity for Park. A few days later, the co-worker took Park to a hidden place to meet the fortune teller secretly. Park met the fortune teller. He begged the man for answers. He asked how he could cure his terrible illness. The fortune teller listened. He was silent for a long time. The fortune teller was silent for a long time. He finally told Park that his disease was very powerful. The fortune teller said the normal medical treatment would not work. He said there was only one thing that could cure Park's sick liver. He told Park he would need to eat a human liver. Park was shocked and very afraid. He said he could not kill a person. The fortune teller said he had no other advice to give. Park went home to his apartment. He thought about the fortune teller's words. His pain continued to get worse. The medicine did not help. He could not sleep. He could not work well. He felt weaker every day. After weeks of suffering, Park's thinking changed. He was desperate to stop the pain. He decided the fortune teller might be right. He began to think that trying this was better than dying in agony. He started to form a plan. He needed to find a person, and he needed to do it in secret. Park knew he could not take someone from his own neighborhood or factory. People would recognize him. He decided to go to rural areas outside Simpo. He knew that students from the city were often sent to work on communal farms in the countryside. These farms had dormitories where the students slept. Park thought these young people, working away from their families, might be easier targets. He began to take short trips on his days off from work. He walked to areas with farms. He watched the routines. He saw groups of teenagers, aged 14 to 17, working in the fields during the day. He saw where their sleeping buildings were located. He noted that the areas were quiet at night. He prepared a small bag. In it he put a sharp kitchen knife from his home, a length of rope, and a dirty cloth. Several days later, Park acted. He left his home after dark and walked to a farm he had seen before. It was very late at night. All the lights in the students' dormitory were off. He used his knife to quietly pry open a window that was loose. He climbed inside. The room was full of sleeping students. His heart was beating very fast. He moved slowly to a bed where a young girl, about 15 years old, was sleeping. He put his hand firmly over her mouth to stop her from screaming. She woke up and struggled. He then used his other hand to stab her with his knife. He did this several times quickly. She bled heavily. He tried to pick her up to carry her out of the building. As he was moving toward the window with her, some dogs outside the building started barking loudly. The barking was sudden and fierce. Park was terrified that the noise would wake everyone. He panicked. He dropped the injured girl on the ground near the window. He climbed out alone and ran into the darkness. The girl did not die immediately. The barking dogs and noise woke other students. They found her and called for help. She was taken to a clinic, but her wounds were too severe. She died from her injuries the next morning. A few days after this, a farmer at a different communal farm was walking early in the morning. He found the body of another student in a ditch near a field. This body was a young boy. The body was not just stabbed. It had been cut open in a very specific and terrible way. The liver had been removed. The farmer was so shocked by what he saw that he fainted. Other workers found him and saw the body. They reported it to the local police. The Simpo City Police Department came to investigate. They looked at the body in the area. They had no modern forensic tools. They could not find useful fingerprints or footprints. They did not have a system to connect this crime to the injured girl who had died days earlier at another farm. Some police officers, having no explanation, even suggested a wild animal or a ghost might be responsible. They did not catch anyone. Park was watching and listening. He saw that the police were not effective. This made him feel a bit safer. His sickness and pain continued. He believed more than ever that he needed to try the fortune teller's cure. A few days after the police left the farm area, Park went into a different part of Simpo. He found a woman in her 20s walking alone at night. He attacked her in the same way. He killed her and removed her liver. He took the organ home. He did not know how to prepare it or eat it. He tried to cook a small piece. He ate it. It did not stop his pain. He thought maybe he needed to try again. Maybe it had not worked because he was scared or because the method was wrong. Over the following weeks and months, Park continued to kill. He used the same method. He would find a person alone, usually at night, in areas with little light. He would stab them and take the liver. He did this 9 more times. The people of Simpo became very frightened. They heard about bodies being found. They heard the strange details about the injuries. They did not know who was doing it or why. People started to refuse to go out after dark. Parents kept their children inside. The police continued to investigate each new crime, but they had no leads. They could not find a pattern or a suspect. The city was filled with fear and confusion. One day in October 1990, Park targeted his 13th intended victim. This was a student traveling alone on a path toward a communal farm. Park stepped out from behind some trees and grabbed the student. He tried to cover the student's mouth, but this student was stronger and older than his previous victims. The student fought back fiercely, shouting and kicking. Park was still weak from his illness. He could not keep his grip. He became scared that the struggle would attract attention. He let go of the student and ran away. The student immediately ran to the nearest group of houses for help. He told the people there what had happened. He described the man who attacked him. At the same time, Park was running away from the scene. He was seen by two other citizens who were working nearby. These citizens noticed a man running in a panic. They also heard the shouts from the student down the road. They quickly connected the two events. The two citizens chased after Park. They caught him and held him. They brought him to a local police post. The police at the post began to question Park. At first, Park said he was just running because he was scared. But his story did not make sense. The police then searched the small bag he was carrying. They found a sharp knife and a coil of rope. These items matched the description of tools used by the killer the city feared. The police realized this might be the serial killer. They took Park to the main police station in Simpo for serious interrogation. Under intense questioning, Park confessed. He told the police everything. He explained about his liver disease. He told them about the fortune teller's advice. He described each of his attacks, including the first failed one on the young girl and the 12 subsequent murders. He told them where he had left the bodies. The police sent teams to these locations. They found remains that confirmed his stories. The police then arrested the fortune teller. The fortune teller was charged with giving advice that led to murder. His exact legal charge was not publicly stated. Park's trial was held in mid-October 1991. It was held at the People's Court in Simpo. The court heard all the evidence. They heard Park's full confession. They heard from the families of the victims. Park pleaded guilty to all the murder charges. The judge found him guilty and sentenced him to death. Sometime later that same month, the sentence was carried out. Park Myung-sik was executed by firing squad. The fortune teller also stood trial. The court found him responsible for influencing Park's actions. He was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor in a penal colony. He served his full sentence. He was released in 2006. According to North Korean law, after his release, he was not allowed to return to his home province. He was deported to a different province to live. What happened to him after that is not known. The case was kept quiet by North Korean authorities for many years. In 2006, the story was reported by Daily NK, a South Korean online newspaper that focuses on news from North Korea. The newspaper used the story to criticize the North Korean government. The article said the government's strict controls and denial of religious freedom created an environment where such superstition and crime could happen. The story of Park Myung-sik became known outside North Korea only through this report. The victims' families received no official compensation or counseling. They were left to grieve on their own. The people of Simpo slowly returned to their normal lives after the arrests, but the memory of the fear remained for a long time. The justice system had delivered its final punishment, and the city's long nightmare was over.